So we're going to continue with our final exam review on number 11. And the instructions carry over from 9 and 10, which is find the distance between the 2 points. So in this case, the very first step to finding that distance is to identify the coordinates at either end of this line segment. So while we're looking at this picture, I'm going to be writing these down. In the bottom left, I'm at -3, -3. So let's write in parentheses -3, -3. You need to write small, okay? And then in the top right of the line segment, I'm at 3, 2, okay? 3, 2. So just a couple days ago or yesterday, we learned the distance formula. And so we need to write that next. The distance formula is equal to the square root of the sum of the squared differences of the x and y values. So it looks like square root, open parentheses, x2 minus x1, close parentheses, squared, plus, open parentheses, y2 minus y1, close parentheses, squared. And then use your straight edge to draw a large radical sign bar above it. Now the next step in all distance formula computations is to label the points. So we just say x1, y1, x2, y2. And now we're going to plug in the numbers. So d for distance, d equals, just put that there as a placeholder for the square root. Open parentheses, x2 is 3 minus x1, which is -3. So minus -3. So it looks like 3 dash 3.
Wait, wouldn't that just combine?
It will combine to be a plus here in a minute, but I want to show the step. Squared plus, open parentheses. Now y2 is 2 minus y1, which is -3. So it's like 2 minus -3, close parentheses, squared. Okay. Put a huge root bar over the top. And now, as one of my students said, remember, no names, we can combine these minus signs into plus signs. But I wanted to make sure to show that they were originally double negatives. Okay, so now we're just going to continue with arithmetic here. D equals open root here. And now 3 plus 3 is 6. So right, you can drop the parentheses and just write 6 squared. Plus 2 plus 3 is 5. So we can drop the parentheses and just put 5 squared. Now, let's go ahead and put this root bar on top. So now we can't combine these in any way because they have different bases. This base is 6, this base is 5. So we just have to actually expand these squares out. So 6 squared is 6 times 6. 6 times 6 is 36. Plus 5 squared, 5 times 5 is 25. Okay. Now we actually need to show our work that we know how to add. 36 plus 25 plus, so 6 plus 5 is 11, so we write a 1 and we carry a 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, 4 plus 2 is 6. So 36 plus 25 equals 61. Therefore, D equals the square root of 61. Okay. Now, it's my understanding that in this assignment, they want us to leave the roots like that. They don't want us to approximate a decimal root. So that would be B. Okay. Number 12. Remember, first we have to identify the coordinates. So for number 12, my first coordinate pair will be at -1, -1. And my second coordinate pair will be at 0, 3. Whenever you find that one of the numbers is a 0, the math gets easier. So that's something good. Now let's jump up to the board and see if we can get this done. First of all, we're going to rewrite that distance formula equation. D equals the square root, open parentheses, x2 minus x1, close parentheses squared, plus open parentheses y2 minus y1, close parentheses squared, huge root bar. Now label our points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and plug them in. D equals root symbol, open parentheses, x2 is 0, minus x1, which is -1. So it's 0 minus -1. Careful there. Close parentheses, squared, plus open parentheses. Y2 is 3 minus y1, which is -1. So minus -1. Close parentheses, squared. And put a big root bar. And now we're going to continue to simplify. We can combine these two double negatives into a plus sign. Here we go, here and here. So distance equals the square root of 0 plus 1 is 1. So we're going to go ahead and write 1 squared, plus 3 plus 1 is 4, and we're going to go ahead and write 4 squared. We always show our intermediate steps. I know it doesn't seem like it, but you're writing a little story here about how to do this problem. It's not so much that you know how to do it, but that you can communicate using these mathematical symbols that you know how to do it. 1 times 1 is 1, so 1 squared is 1. 4 times 4 is 16, so 1 plus 16. All underneath the root symbol. 17. And so D equals the square root of 17. Okay. I hope all of you are taking a cue from me that writing nice and neat, keeping everything lined up, that's a good thing. Okay. All right, so we're moving on now. A totally new topic. This is called polynomial division. This is fun. It's a lot different than what we just did. So the hard part is actually to write all this down. And you're going to want to write really small, because otherwise we'll run out of space. I think I gave you enough space on the page to actually write below it, down below it. But I'm going to make this big so I can write it down. Number 13. So let me show you what I'm doing so you know what I want you to write. I want you to write x squared plus 15x plus 56. And then I want you to put a huge division bar over that. And then out here to the left, where you would normally put the divisor, you're going to put open parentheses, x plus 8, close parentheses. Okay, so you're dividing this trinomial by this binomial. Luckily, this is way easier than it looks. Okay, so let's just play a little game of I ask a question and you guys yell out the answer. What do I need to multiply by x to make x squared? X. So right here, write x. Now, in your mind, you have to multiply x using the distributive property through this binomial. So x times x is x squared. And write that beneath the x squared. And these need to line up exactly. Then x times 8, that's plus 8x. So put the plus symbol underneath the plus symbol and put the 8x underneath that 15x. Now take your straight edge and draw a huge line like you're going to do some arithmetic. Put this bottom expression in parentheses and stick a subtraction sign out to the left. Now we're going to subtract in columns, and we use our finger. X squared minus x squared, that's 0. Okay? These should always cancel out, those first terms. If they don't, you need to go back and check your work. These second terms here, it doesn't matter if they cancel out. 15x minus, you see where my hand is going over here to the sign? 15x minus positive 8x. 7x, positive 7x. So we're just going to write 7x. And now, just like in regular division, we bring down the next term. So I'm bringing down plus 56. Okay? Now, here's the question. What do I need to multiply by x to make 7x? 7. So we're going to write plus 7. And now, we're going to multiply that 7 using the distributive property through this binomial divisor. So what's 7 times x? Remember, that should be the same, 7x. What is 7 times 8? 56, positive 56, so I'm going to put plus 56. Whenever you see the numbers look like this, where I've stacked the same thing on top of itself, we know there's not going to be any remainder. But let's prove it by drawing a line, putting this in parentheses, and putting a minus sign out here. 7x minus 7x, cancel. 56 minus 56, cancel. There's no remainder. Therefore, the quotient, or the answer to the division problem, is x plus 7. Okay, now we don't quit right there. At least we shouldn't. What you should check to make sure you did this right is you should write x plus 8 times x plus 7. And then you need to use FOIL. First, outer, inner, last, to quickly check your work. First, x times x is x squared. Outer, x times 7 plus 7x. Inner, 8 times x plus 8x. Last, 8 times 7 plus 56. These inner two terms always combine. So you have x squared plus 15x plus 56. This should equal your dividend. So x squared plus 15x plus 56. That confirms that x plus 7 is in fact the quotient. Okay, this is going to be a little bit more interesting because our leading coefficient of our dividend is not 1, it's a 7. So go ahead, and if you already know what I'm going to do, I'm going to write this down as if it was a division problem. you have the document right in front of you. So it's 7a squared minus 41a plus 30. Big division bar. And then our divisor is open parentheses, a minus 5, close parentheses. Same thing. What times a equals 7a squared? So think about it. It's got to be a times something equals 7a squared. So what do you think goes here in this little space? 7a, right? That gives me a times a is a squared. 1 times 7, 7. So 7a squared. So my first term here is going to be 7a. Now I distribute 7a through the parentheses. So 7a times a, we already know it's going to be 7a squared. We just did that. 7a times negative 5, negative 35a. So put minus 35a. Now draw a line. Put parentheses around this. And then put a big minus sign out here. This is where pointing with your finger and talking to yourself, you know, is good thing. 7a squared minus 7a squared. Those should cancel, and they do. But now this one won't. Negative 41a minus negative 35a. That's addition. Negative 41 plus 35. So when you're adding a negative number to a positive number, you perform the operation as if it were subtraction. But your answer will have a negative sign in front of it, okay? So let's go ahead and just subtract 35 from 41. So I crossed out these two to borrow. I made the 1 into an 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. And that a is going to just come down and join us. And then 3 minus 3 is 0. But remember, because the negative was bigger than the positive, it's negative 6a. Do you all understand how I got negative 6a? All right. Now it's time to bring down plus 30. And we have to ask ourselves, what do I multiply by a to get negative 6a? Negative 6. So we're just going to put minus 6. Now we're going to multiply negative 6 times this binomial. So negative 6 times a is negative 6a. That's what we want. And then negative 6 times negative 5 is plus 30. So now you kind of know you did it right, you know, when they match like that. Draw a line, put parentheses, put a minus sign. Negative 6a minus negative 6a, that's negative 6a plus 6a, those cancel. 30 minus 30 is 0, those cancel, there's no remainder. Therefore, this is the quotient. And because we are winners and we never quit, we are going to check our work. I don't know why this is always the boring part, because you feel like you already did it. But if you don't check your work, this is where little mistakes can creep in. First, outer, inner, last. A times 7a is 7a squared. Outer, negative 6 times a minus 6a. Inner, negative 5 times 7a, negative 35a. Last, negative 5 times negative 6 is positive 30. These terms combine in the middle. So you have 7a squared minus 41a plus 30. It should match the dividend. It does. We're right. Okay, we're going to stop there because the next set of problems has a remainder, and I can see that I'm losing the crowd. Okay, like in the movie Gladiator. Remember, the emperor does this. I don't want to lose you guys. You've done good. You've been an attentive group, and this was some hard math, so we'll stop recording there, pick it up in a different recording.